Welcome to Vashon Island and the Mukai Farm Garden, a truly unique place in Japanese-American history. This place tells the quintessentially American tale of Denshiro B.D. Mukai, his wife Kuni, and son Masa. Together, this enterprising immigrant family built a beautiful home, an enormously successful strawberry business, and a one-of-a-kind Japanese garden, all in the face of pre-war alien land laws and other forms of discrimination. It is my pleasure to tell their story, as well as the story of the agrarian heritage of their community. Please spend the next few minutes with me on a tour of one of the very few surviving Japanese farmsteads in the United States. Along with its history, you'll learn about the preservation and restoration work that has restored this landmark treasure to its pre-war beauty. First, though, I need to talk about the history of Japanese immigrants who populated Vashon Island. Located in Puget Sound in the state of Washington, Vashon Island gradually became home to over 140 Japanese immigrants from 1900 to 1942. These Japanese Americans created a close-knit and thriving community on the island, despite barriers to citizenship and land ownership. Most of them became farmers, growing a variety of fruit, but favoring strawberries. It was a financially profitable crop that suited the island's soil and terrain. Additionally, the large cities of Seattle and Tacoma, a short boat ride away, provided a steady market for the strawberries. B.D. Mukai was one of these strawberry farmers, having moved his family to Vashon Island in 1910. By then, he'd been in America 7 years, learning English and working in multiple jobs. But he was not allowed to own land or become a citizen because of the discriminatory laws against the Japanese. But after 16 years of successful tenant farming on Vashon Island, he purchased 40 acres in the name of his American son, who by virtue of his American citizenship was allowed to own land. Over time, B.D. built a home, fruit processing plant, a barn, and accommodations for the pickers who arrived annually for harvest. He and his son Masa worked together to create an enormously successful business, buying berries from multiple other island growers. In 1934, B.D. left the island and ultimately moved back to Japan, leaving Masa and Kuni to manage the complex. Then, in 1942, Executive Order 9066 changed everything when President Roosevelt declared Japanese nationals enemy aliens who would sabotage, collaborate, and spy on Americans. On May 16, 1942, 111 Japanese Americans on Vashon were forcibly removed and sent to the temporary detention center at Pinedale in the California desert. From there, many were then transferred to Tule Lake and then to other internment camps for the duration of the war. Because the Mukai family had advanced knowledge of the coming internment, they were able to self-exile in Idaho. Thanks to a conscientious caretaker, operations at the farm continued throughout the war. After the war, only 1/3 of Vashon's Japanese Americans returned. But the economies of farming were changing globally. Crops in California were cheaper and could be transported by refrigerated truck over the new interstate road system. New child labor laws and the requirements for better migrant labor living conditions increased local farming costs. So over the following decades, the Mukai Farm Garden went through many business transformations. By 1969, Masa finally sold the fruit-bearing plant to private individuals. The strawberry fields were already gone. The house was in private hands. The garden was badly overgrown from lack of attention, and the fruit processing plant was in disrepair. In 1993, the property, which was then only 4.5 acres, was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. It became public property in 2000 when a nonprofit corporation purchased the house and grounds as a historic site and museum. Little preservation work was done until 2016 when the Friends of Mukai took possession. Aesthetics were very important to BD. His home was an expression of his long-held desire to be a true American. He designed it as a typical American bungalow with two-car garage, big basement, wide porch, long straight sidewalks leading to the front door and surrounding the house. He topped it off with a prominent and substantial front lawn and irrigation system. In 2016, the Friends of Mukai contracted with professional consultants, contractors, and preservationists to restore the exterior of the house and grounds to their original 1930s condition. After 3 years of hard work, consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, the house is once again the stable, well-maintained showplace BD would be proud of. Unlike BD, his wife Kuni wanted to retain some of her Japanese heritage and traditions. She'd been in America for 22 years when she became BD's second wife and stepmother to his son Masa. In 1925, Kuni fulfilled the traditional duties of a Japanese woman and wife with one exception. She broke with the Japanese patriarchal traditions and designed a Japanese garden of her own, gracing her family's new home. The garden is an adaptation of a typical stroll garden with extensive rockery, evergreens, and water features. This represents two cultures, Japanese and American, side by side, dramatically illustrating what makes this property of special interest to historians. BD expressing his intention to assimilate to his new American culture, and Kuni using her garden to retain a significant aspect of her Japanese culture. Another reason the garden is remarkable is that it is the only known Japanese garden in America designed by an immigrant woman. After the war, though, the garden slowly fell into disrepair. In 2018, the Friends of Mukai restored the ponds, garden, hill, sidewalks, and lawns over 18 months. Professionals were consulted, guided by a historic landscape architect. Photos of the original garden helped direct the work. We're thrilled that today visitors can experience the tranquility and beauty of what is the only public garden on Vashon Island. The fruit barreling plant is the only remaining structure on the property that portrays the farm's strawberry operations. It was the core of B.D. Mukai's success and embodies his family's entrepreneurial spirit. Before B.D. moved to Vashon, one of his many jobs was in a Seattle commission house, a wholesale company that bought and sold fruits and vegetables from local farmers to distribute all over the country. B.D.'s knowledge of the lucrative strawberry business and of the corruption at many commission houses motivated him in 1927 to build his own strawberry processing plant. BD created the first processing plant in the nation to experiment with cold storing his own berries for long-distance travel. This meant he could take the strawberries directly from the field to the plant to be stored, washed, packaged with sugar, and cold stored overnight. The next morning, the cold stored barrels of sugared strawberries were transported to Seattle for shipping across America in refrigerated rail cars. In this way, he sidestepped the commission house altogether. At the height of the harvest season, there would be 400 to 500 pickers in the fields, 200 tons of berries packed in barrels, and over $500,000 in sales. The building is currently in the first of 3 phases to restore and transform the building to a historic exhibit space, community center, and commercial space. The immediate goal is to stabilize the barreling plant and prevent further deterioration until funding is obtained for full rehabilitation and restoration. The Friends of Mukai envision that a brewery, winery, or other food product production business will inhabit the restored space as a nod to its history. The Mukai Farm Garden is a rare, intact example of an early Japanese-American settlement. It tells the story of immigration farming, racial discrimination, the historically significant garden, and the rise and fall of the strawberry industry in the Northwest. Today, the Friends of Mukai are celebrating teaching, inspiring, and building a multicultural community center at the Mukai Farm Garden. Please visit us at www.mukaifarmandgarden.org, or even better, come and see it yourself.